The live stream is in place. The meeting's being recorded. We'll call this meeting to order. The town council is in session for its meeting on the 20th of May, 2021. The first item of business, I note that all 5 councilors, Councilor Golembeski, Mataronis, Moore, Wallach, and Mushin are present, and we'll begin business with approval of the minutes of our last meeting.
Motion approved the May 6, 2021 town council meeting unless anyone has any comments or questions on it.
Second.
Motion made by Mataronis, second by Moore. Any comments or questions? A roll call vote. Councilor Golembeski.
Aye.
Councilor Mataronis.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Councilor Wallach.
Aye.
Mushin, aye. Thank you. By way of announcements, pleased to announce that an annual event, that is the EMS, National EMS Week, is recognized this week. I would point out that in an era such as we are right now, that's particularly relevant. Just a word of appreciation to every one of our EMS members, as well as those throughout the region who support us in all sorts of ways when that's needed through mutual aid. Thank you to each one of them. Are there any other announcements? All right, the next item of business is the department head report and that of the Public Works Director.
Motion to place the Public Works report on file.
Second.
Motion by Mataronis, second by Moore. Any discussion on that report? A vote on that motion then. Councilor Golembeski.
Aye.
Councilor Mataronis.
Aye.
Councilor Moore.
Aye.
Councilor Wallach.
Aye.
Mushin, aye. Thank you. The next item is an item of old business, and that is a proposal for extension of Special Directive 5. If you'll remember, this is the directive that declares or that extends the state of emergency in the town of Little Compton. This represents the 10th revision of that motion, of that directive. And I would solicit a vote for it, in favor of it, that I can sign tomorrow, extending it through the 25th of June, which is the day after our second meeting in June.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mataronis, second by Wallach to approve that motion. Is there any discussion?
Bob, are there any changes to that?
There are not. It is standard form with the exception of the dates. So that it looks exactly like the last one, except that the dates are advanced by 1 month.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? We'll ask for a roll call vote. Councilor Golembeski.
Aye.
Mataronis.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Wallach.
Aye.
Mushin, aye. Thank you. The next item of business is a vote to adopt an amendment to Chapter 14-5.9A1, which updates the flood rate map panel numbers as proposed during a public hearing held on May 6th. Now, what I would seek, as you remember, we held this meeting, we successfully dealt with the issue, closed the public hearing, but did not vote to adopt. So I would seek a motion which is identical to what's printed in your agenda, with the exception of the words vote to. So the motion would be to adopt an amendment, etc. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Moore, second by Wallach. Any discussion on that? A roll call vote then. Councilor Golembeski.
Aye.
Councilor Mataronis.
No.
Councilor Moore.
Aye.
Councilor Wallach.
Aye.
Mushin, aye. Thank you. The next item of business is a report from the town administrator and the town solicitor and the chair of the Ag Trust with recommended resolution subject to concerns raised concerning 10 South of Commons Road and its access to property. The administrator's report is in your file, as well as the report from the attorney for the Ag Trust. Additionally, the solicitor has verbally reported to me his concurrence with the process that we're using. Is there any question or discussion?
I would just ask if the solicitor could kind of summarize what we got in the report and what our standing is on this.
I'd like to start at the end. The standing that the town council has is frankly none. This is a trust matter. They're well run. They've got a good team there. They got a good lawyer there. I'm delighted that they included us in the loop here. And I think certainly out of respect for a former council member, that it's appropriate that the town council be aware of it. But as anybody who's been involved with lawyers who say, 2 lawyers is too many. We have a lawyer representing the trust, and I think he's done a great job. So that's where we are.
Any other discussion?
Not to belabor it, but the right of way that this is all being concerned about is Plat 30, Lot 9. Am I correct in saying that? That's the lot the right of way is on?
Yes.
That's not the lot that the parties were opposed to, or I'm trying to figure the right word here. It's not the lot of the person who got accused of blocking it. It's not even their lot. It's the old Phoebe Chase lot.
Correct.
Your point, that was the position articulated by the Ag Trust lawyer, and that is in fact the access, and that was not restricted. You're correct.
Okay, thank you.
We'll ask any further discussion.
Yes, Mr. President, I was asked by Joanna McKenzie, who was the original author to bring this to the council, to express her gratitude for how this has been handled, and understands that things are going quite well right now. So she wanted the council to know that her gratitude for your help.
Tremendous. That's exactly the outcome we'd like to have in these kind of situations. Thank you. All right, we'll have a roll call vote on that motion.
Can I just make one more comment? I know there was accusations that there were threats by one landowner against the other, and I think it's been made clear that the police will respond to those. And I just want to make clear once again, if anybody feels threatened, they should contact the police, and I think that there will be an appropriate response.
Well said. Thank you. Any further discussion? A roll call vote then on the motion. Councilor Golembeski.
Aye.
Councilor Mataronis.
Aye.
Councilor Moore.
Aye.
Councilor Wallach.
Aye.
Councilor aye. Thank you. The next item of business is a communication received from the planning board asking if the council wishes to have the planning board review and address inconsistencies regarding the treatment of dotted line lots. This subject was brought back to the planning board by the assessor for the May meeting of the board. Any discussion on that matter?
I'll make note that both the assessor and the chairman of the planning board are attendees at this time.
Thank you.
Would the assessor like to make any comment on this, please?
Yes, so the dotted lines are not necessarily lots of record. They're informational. They're a subject separate from substandard lots. So I believe that the dotted lines can be removed from the plat maps without any consequence. There may be a few that people would have questions on, but we would be glad to entertain or look at what their concerns are.
Is there any questions from the solicitor?
Yes, I disagree with, respectfully, I disagree with Denise. I think it'll cause a lot of problems. People believe that they own 2 separate lots, and this will be work for lawyers for generations to come. I understand what the dotted lines mean. I understand why Elson Stanley started doing it 35 or 40 years ago, but many people believe that they have 2 lots. And for us to unilaterally say, no, you don't, I think that's a bad precedent. That's my advice. I certainly understand the frustration that people have. And I think a letter that was maybe dated 2017 in a package kind of addressed it, that Alan Booth wanted to address it years ago. And I think if consistency is anything, I said the same thing. I said, I don't think you ought to do that. We have not adopted a merger law. We thought about it. We didn't. This came up, frankly, quite poignantly with the Country Harvest. And many people said under the Redmond case that perhaps that was just one lot. I never took that position. I took that position that there were at least at one time 6, and then I think Tom and Ann kept the lot to themselves. I wouldn't weigh in on this unless the town is willing to receive an onslaught of complaints, worries, etc., and then concerns from title companies, title lawyers, etc.
Yes, I think, Mr. Humphrey, I think you're confusing substandard lots of record with the dotted lines. The dotted lines were informational reference that Elliott Stanley made when he replatted the town. And at that time, most of them, I've been doing quite a bit of research on them, most of them are a piece of land that Joe next door gave to Fred just to make his lot a little bigger so he could put a shed on it, or he could have a buffer zone from his neighbors. And they have been conveyed on one deed, and most of them have been conveyed to say that there are 2 parcels making one lot.
Yes, I agree. I remember very clearly working with Elliott Stanley on this in 2003. And frankly, he did it for his edification, as I recall. And I would not weigh in on this. If the town council wants to, because many people believe that they have 2 lots. And some of the more sophisticated title attorneys, which we have a number of them in town, continually utilize the 2-lot deed system. So I wouldn't get involved with it, but it's up to the town. I've given you my opinion, and I feel strongly about it.
So can I just ask for, could the solicitor for us mere mortals explain what the issue is around dotted line and what our options are?
Well, first of all, that's a wonderful way to phrase it, what your options are. Your options as the town council are not to adversely impact people's property rights. Okay, so that's where we stand. Zoning came from health, welfare, and safety of the public, and that was around 1912, the Euclid case. But in this particular case, this was done by Stanley Engineering to say, look, dotted lines were established as an informational way to indicate to the assessors and others that a possible lot of record may exist, perhaps should be shown as a separate parcel. That's what he did. And so, in other words, Elliott Stanley, great guy, saw this as a potential problem and said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to allow you to know that this could be a problem or an issue. In the event that the town council would say, we're just going to eliminate the dotted lines and it's one lot, that's not a good plan.
Why? I need further.
Why?
explanation.
Why? Because who are we to say that it's one lot and not 2 lots? Who was the town council to say that? Why would they do that? Well, on the other hand, the town council wanted to go through, engage years and years of title searches to determine whether the town council, on a lot by lot basis, determines that it's 1 lot and not 2. Well, you can do that. But the dotted line system has been in place since Stanley Engineering started. And when I started my first case for Little Compton in 1984, I mean, that's what he did. And oftentimes I would call Elliot and say, tell me the history of this one. And he'd be able to draw it up pretty quickly. But I don't think this is a good plan, but that's my opinion.
There are a set of lots that fit that definition. There's also another set in which, as I think the assessor said, often small additions that were made to properties are conveyed by a single deed. Is there not some opportunity for some low-hanging fruit there with people whose extra lots, let's call them, are of such a size that they don't constitute a buildable lot? They're slivers of land in some cases. And perhaps there would be some simplification before we did our GPS, which is real, sorry, our, not GPS, before we did our
GIS.
GIS, thank you, conversion, so as to not carry forward a number of lots like that. Is that a direction we could give to the planning board to single out those and give us a sense of what set of lots are in that category?
Two things. One, I think Denise has a wonderful approach with people, as you know. She's very good with people. And when people come to her and say, look, this is what I think I'd like to do because I'm getting taxed on two lots, one's a sliver, one's a real lot, can you combine it? She has a great gift with people to do that. But as for the planning board being assigned this, so that means they need to notify the property owner, who will undoubtedly come to the planning board meetings with an attorney and say, no, I have two lots. I wanted to keep two lots, and that's what I'm going to do. I mean, perhaps the town's expert on small lots is Councilor Mataronis. And he knows how things are done down at the point. Now, most of those lots are actually not dotted line lots. They're actually lots. But I'm very, very hesitant to get into the planning board selecting. Suppose they start on one end of the town and not the other end of the town. I mean, why is somebody in Adamsville selected first and then someone on Second Point last? I don't see it. It's an anomaly. It's frustrating to the planning board, frustrating to the tax assessor, sometimes frustrating to the solicitor. But I really don't like to ever get involved with property rights.
Excuse me. The originator of the proposal is on the call with us, the chair of the planning board. Perhaps he could comment on their intention with respect to this. If I'm misstating that, I stand corrected.
Oh, no, I'd be happy to comment. We were not, we were presented with the subject of dotted lots. We deal with them with some frequency whenever the situation occurs. We treat it, it's a regular lot of record, and more often than not, they are considered for an administrative subdivision to make the lot larger so that it might be developed. As you said, they range from a sliver to over 2 acres, so that there's a wide range of dotted lots. Our concern or recommendation or whatever was just in light of the fact they're legal lots of record, and at the moment they're sort of invisible in that you have a plat and a lot, which may be more than one lot. And we treat them as lots that can be developed and merged or subdivided. And so it might be at this time of revaluation, an opportunity to identify those lots with their own lot number. Right now, based on the last list I got, there are about 322 dotted line lots that are present on 131 numbered lots. So the lots that you would see with a number in the plat book, in addition to the numbers that you see of lots, there are 322 dotted line lots. So as we're about to do a reval is that the time to think of taking the dotted line lot of whatever dimensions it is and evaluating it? And then it can also be added to the GIS plotting of all lots in the town. So it was really just a thought of, is now the time to identify these lots in the plat book and on the records, as opposed to only being able to discover them. You see the dotted line on the plat book, which is the principal indicator, and then you have to search the deed. So any person that wants to subdivide the surveyor in the application process, they will present to us parcel A, parcel B, parcel C, whatever the deeds reflect, and then we'll deal with them in those dimensions. But so we were looking at it principally as an opportunity to identify the lots in the process of the reval and GIS exploration.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
the minute you start to take many people think they have two lots. Under the Fifth Amendment, that's confiscatory taking. If you said, no, you got one lot now, I wouldn't do that. That's, Mike raises a good point. It's a bookkeeping point, et cetera. But no, I think that each and every of the 330 lots of these, each and every one of them deserves, if you're going to do this, a hearing in public as to why it's not two lots. This was done a long time ago. We have a quirky town, no question about it, but this is something that people hold quite dearly to them. When you start to invade people's property rights, you're asking for controversy, which is a lawyer's way of saying you're asking for lawsuits. I wouldn't do
I
that.
understand that, and you're our lawyer. You're not a member of this council, so thank you very much for your opinion. But I think we've got an opinion from the Planning Commission. We've got an opinion from the tax official. And if we don't have enough information to evaluate whether those are good opinions, then let's form a subcommittee that evaluates that. But to just say this is the way things have been done and we should therefore not do anything, I don't buy. I'm sorry.
That's not what I said. What I said is if you take people's property rights, you're going to get sued. That's what
Understood
I said.
that. Understood. You can get sued for all sorts of things. Thank you very
I'm
much.
aware of that.
And that's
Thank
why
you.
we hire you. But I think we should consider whether this is actually a good thing to do. And if we don't have enough information, we should get other information. We should maybe form a committee that gathers that information. But I don't think to just give us the advice, well, because it's always been done this way and because you might get sued, you shouldn't do it, I don't think that's good advice. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. I think it is good advice.
If I just may make one comment there, we were not suggesting that lots be taken away or combined. We were suggesting that they just be identified formally and
Exactly.
get their own numbers.
And
So
I think that's a great thing to do. And I don't think that Denise is suggesting much else than that. But to say this is untouchable because somebody might sue us, I don't buy that.
I've got a question for Mike, or for Denise and Mike. At least if we were to identify all these properties, what would the advantage be to the town or to the assessor's office?
So if I may answer that, like I tried to say to begin with, when Elliot established these, he said they were not necessarily lots of record. So if we wanted to notify the taxpayers that they've been only considered as a single lot right now, and that at one time they may have been woodlots or a little section that was given to someone years ago, and those two sections made their lot. but we want to continue to identify them as one and they'll only be taxed as one, then, we could exercise that and the taxpayer, would maybe say, okay, I'm fine with that. And if they were not fine with that and wanted to keep them as two, then we would separate them as two separate lots and tax them as two separate lots. And that's how it would be fair, like how it is throughout the town. But right now they're being taxed as one lot because they're being used as one lot and they've been deeded most of the times as one lot, even though they say two separate parcels because Fred gave it to Joe at one time and then Sam gave another piece to Joe. So
Yeah, I
it would
think,
benefit the town because if it would clear things up once and for all, and we wouldn't be revisiting this every reval.
well, and I don't think that's fair to the thousands of other property owners in town who have one lot and they pay for one lot. And then there are these other property owners who have the dotted line lots and pay for one lot, but they think that someday they might be able to split it off into two, or they already think it is two lots. I'm just thinking, if folks really do think that they have two separate lots, they should be assessed as two separate properties and not one property. Or if it is one property, then let's make sure it's actually deeded that way, or that the town recognizes it that way.
Correct. And prior to, the planning board now asks when a plan is done, when a lot is subdivided or added to, a new deed is recorded. Years ago, there was no corrective deed to say this is my lot now. So you have one deed saying it's this lot plus this lot. So it's for title searches, it can be, a pretty cumbersome job to do. And for us, when we get the deeds, it's pretty cumbersome to look through it all. So if we can clean it up and be done with it, that'd be great.
Well, I see no issue having the information or, at least getting the information together and knowing what lots are dotted line lots and what that might entail.
Yeah, I have a pretty extensive spreadsheet with that and all the deed references pretty much on there right now.
It seems to me, in keeping with the advice of the solicitor regarding taking action, the identification of two lots, each of which could be a buildable lot and therefore taxed separately as a first step, doesn't capture the low-hanging fruit. Isn't there a way in which we can deal with these ones in which there's no controversy? It's simply I'll call it a complication of our platting system that says we have properties on which there are pieces and slivers and extras that are called out in a deed that could be merged with the main lot with the full concurrence of the owner, except that I don't know what it is that prevents it right now. Presumably it's just that nobody said so. What if we said the opportunity is there to do that? I presume there would be some issue with one needs to make a survey and therefore the survey has a cost associated with it. Is that what stops people from doing that right now?
Yes, I would say yes. That's one of the obstacles where when we have merged lots, the ordinance calls for a class 1 survey and it gets quite expensive.
So might we, for instance, focus on revising that direction to say the merging of contiguous lots to blah, 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 whatever the right language might be, would that take off the books a host of dotted line lots that were no-brainers, I'll call them, or am I not seeing the big picture here?
Well, I think it would remove one of the obstacles for landowners to merge theirs. Clearly, a survey makes it more difficult and expensive for the landowner to combine lots. And there are situations where the landowner has chosen not to merge because they were happy just the way it is and they taxed fine and there's no need to have that extra expense.
it would seem to me in response to your request for our consideration, perhaps a ranking of here's the first step we take, here's the second, and then we could decide to Councilor Wallach's point, do we want to have some group look at this separately, or is there a step we could take? It would seem to me there's a set of them that are not contentious. I guess I'd say it that way. To the solicitor's point, I really am not interested in deliberately provoking someone to say, you put me in a position where my only recourse is to sue you because you've chosen to take action against me in the following way. But it seems to me some simplification could occur without invoking any of that kind of response, at least as a first step.
Mr. Chair, if I might be heard on that. Remember, so Mike says there's 330 lots. Now that doesn't mean 330 different people. It probably means there's roughly 100 or 150 people, because sometimes people have 3 or 4 lined up. That being said, Denise now writes a letter to the owner of 3 separate or 3 dotted line lots and says, we notice that you have a 3 dotted line lot. We take no position as to whether that's 3 lots or 1 lot. What would you like to do about it? Because if the town takes a position as, gee, I think you have 3 lots, now you've embedded that into the owner's psyche. On the other hand, if you say, well, right now we're taxing you on 3 separate lots, would you like to be taxed on 1 lot? That's different. I mean, again, I really give Denise a lot of credit. And it may well be there's a non-committal letter that simply says, dear property owner, my name is Denise Cosgrove. Would you come in and tell me about your lot? And she absorbs a lot of this stuff. She really does. She keeps good records of all this kind of stuff. And I think at that time, with her persuasiveness, she could probably get people to say, gee, I really think that I'd like to have this consolidated as 1 lot. That I want it to be clear for my heirs, etc. But I think this is beyond the council's ken to do much more than that. Mike's raises a good point. I mean, his job gets considerably more complicated when there's a dotted line, because depending on what lawyers appearing before Mike, they tell 2 different tales. 1, it's 1 lot, or 2, it's always been 2 lots. So it's not an easy fix.
I don't think Denise should be in the position of trying to negotiate policy for us. So I think that, if there's an issue about what our policy is, then we should do what's necessary to develop a policy. But I don't think it's legit to ask Denise to negotiate on a case-by-case basis what is the town's policy about these lots.
Thank you, Anna, because there's some that I have found that are on the map with no dotted line, and they have been conveyed the same way some of the properties that have dotted lines have been conveyed. So there's no consistency. So I would like consistency.
So, Mr. President, I would suggest that we have some sort of subcommittee that looks at this, looks at what are the lots in question and what are the ways of prioritizing them, and what are the possible policy solutions from the town perspective to resolving this.
Might there be that group might include 1 or more counselors and the administrator, the assessor, and the chair of the planning board? Would that be appropriate?
I think that's totally appropriate, and even the solicitor probably should be involved. But we should have a broad perspective on how do we deal with this situation, which seems to be complex, multifaceted, and there are a lot of properties in town involved.
Well, this this puts me in an awkward situation on the farm because I've got dotted lines all over the place. And I don't know if they've been removed or not by just rewriting and stuff. I'm not looking at them as separate lots, but I'm not looking at as one lot. They're just there. My biggest concern in all this is, like I always am, is unintended consequences. If we go down this road, am I gonna end up having to hire an attorney to represent me to say, well, damn, now I've got all these lots. I didn't realize I had them because it forced the issue on me. Or is it the opposite? I don't know where to go. I'm just leery of throwing burden on the taxpayers of hiring someone to figure their lots out. And if it gets into class 1 surveys, the prices start to skyrocket. I'd approach this with a very gentle hand. I
don't think we need to hire a lot of people. I think we just need to figure out what is the problem and put it in front of us with better information.
I don't have a problem with, let's figure out if it is a problem. I just don't want to be a solution looking for a problem that isn't really there. If it's about making somebody's job a little easier and it's not going to affect the taxpayers, well, let's go for it. But if it's going to burden somebody because it makes it a little easier on the taxpayer, then we gotta find that balance somehow.
Let me propose that Counselor Wallach, the administrator, the assessor, the solicitor, and the chair of the planning board review this matter together and return to us with a recommendation as to the first and potentially succeeding steps we might take. Is that, Counselor, are you willing to serve in that capacity?
Sure, I'm good with that.
Second.
I will then cast that as a motion to which Counselor Moore has seconded. Is there further discussion on that matter? Thanks for the robust discussion on this. I didn't expect that this would move swiftly, and it has not moved in the past. Let's see if we can make some steps just to, as I say, get some of the low-hanging fruit if possible. Then a roll call vote on that motion. Councillor Golembeski.
Aye.
Councillor Mataronis. I've lost him.
No, he's on mute.
Yeah.
Hold on. Aye, sorry.
Councillor Moore.
Aye.
Councillor Wallach.
Aye.
Motion aye. Thank you, and thanks for the discussion. The next item of business, I believe, requires less conversation. It is to adopt June 5th to 12th as Sydney Tynan Week in Little Compton in celebration of her 100th birthday.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Motion made by Councillor Mataronis, seconded by Moore and Wallach. Any further discussion?
God bless it and make it to 100.
Yes, yes. And I rue the day when I can't read her letters to the editor.
Yeah, they're the best letters to the editor I see written, that's for sure. Okay.
And they're not political.
Oh, they're just so great.
Any further? Roll call vote on that motion. Councillor Golembeski.
Aye.
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 Wallach.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. The next item of business is a presentation by the Beta Group. They have been very patient with us. Kevin Aguiar and Joe McGuire are here to review with us a set of efforts that myself, the administrator, and the Public Works Director have been involved with. They are looking at our road system and how we might most efficiently proceed in order to bring them, these are the town roads now, not the state roads, up to the right condition. I would say that the administrator's intensity on this has paid off in that we are now on the cusp of possibly receiving some additional funding from the federal government in the form of the relief acts associated with COVID. And it's very timely that we hear from them. So Mr. Aguiar and Mr. McGuire. You're muted, sir.
Thank you for having us. So I know Kevin's going to share his screen for the PowerPoint presentation that I'm going to quickly go through. Just a brief summary of kind of the findings that we had from the initial inspections that were conducted, and then Kevin's going to be able to go into a little bit more depth on the actual capital improvement plan that we had proposed and developed alongside the town. So I don't know, Kevin, if you're able to share your screen.
I'm gonna, there's a echo. Is
We
everyone
have
hearing
some-
that?
Yeah, I don't know where that's coming from.
Okay, it's gone. I'm gonna share my screen here and we'll get started.
I think the feedback is coming from Joe's computer.
Might be. I apologize.
Can everyone see the screen?
No, we cannot.
You're not seeing the PowerPoint presentation?
No.
Uh-oh. It's up on my screen.
I'm sure you're Zoom savvy, but did you do the share screen?
Yeah. Yeah. Hold on. Share screen. And
Carol, the prompt I get when I select share screen is that there it comes.
There we
Oh,
go.
there we go. He's got
is it
it.
up?
I did give him permission earlier.
Yeah. Okay, so now I'm just trying to, now that it's doing that, it's not allowing me to, all right. All set?
There we go. Yep.
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
sorry about that.
No problem. All right. So yeah, as I said, this is just a kind of a brief summary of findings. I'm going to just kind of start by going through kind of what the background to the pavement management program is itself. So Kevin, if you want to go to the next slide. So the benefits of pavement management, obviously the town is committed and made the investment to have a pavement management program carried out by Beta Group, specifically the GIS Asset Management Department. This is the idea behind the pavement management program at Beta is that this is allowing for a community to be able to make comprehensive and informed decisions on how to most effectively budget and spend the money allotted for roadway improvement projects, whether that's through treatments or actual repairs. You know, we take kind of the mantra that you want to be more proactive versus reactive when looking at pavement management. Considering this is an asset at the town and could be considered kind of most importantly as one of the major assets in town, this is where we look to kind of go through and put ratings on roadways so that you as a community have the ability to go in and make these informed decisions with confidence and kind of with an unbiased look at what you have for an actual roadway network rating. So Kevin, if you want to go to the next slide. So the program goals and objectives. This is to serve as a planning tool. And again, I can't reiterate enough how this is really a tool to help you make those informed decisions on how you're spending the money. We want to keep good roads in good condition. So we take kind of a balanced approach with how we recommend and go through the different repair strategies that we've seen and what's worked in the past. The goals overall for us are to be able to give you a condition assessment. We then evaluate those conditions utilizing, you know, GIS as well as the access database that we have for reporting methods. We establish the initial backlog for the town, and that gives us the baseline necessary to be able to show the town exactly how they can maybe go about improving their roadways in a cost-effective manner that's going to benefit them in raising that overall roadway network rating, or the RSR. And we're doing that by developing a prioritized plan that Kevin will get into later on. Next slide. So we have a 5-step approach where we start by first
kind of establishing the database design and configuration. We take the town's input. We meet with them, kind of make sure that we've segmented the roadway network in a fashion that kind of meets the standard to what the town was expecting. We then carry out those inspections with trained field staff and experienced field staff who go out and actually drive these roadways manually, looking for distress information. That's then carried out. We then carry out an existing condition summary, and the summary as a whole is we utilize the access database, like I had mentioned earlier, to make the informed decisions that are going to help you along the way in terms of how to best prioritize roadway improvement projects. That comes into play with the capital planning and prioritization, and then the system deployment and training. As we'll get into later on in the presentation, you'll see what I'm talking about in terms of the system and platform that we've developed at Beta. And those two final steps are kind of interchangeable. It's really up to the community that we're working with as to, you know, which one of those steps they want to take first. In this case, we went with the capital planning and prioritization. So next slide. So we take a very heavy GIS-centric approach. We develop a access database that's then brought into GIS and turned into an Esri Geo database. We then take that and turn that into the master pavement management database, utilizing both GIS and access to complement one another. After all the reports have been run and the mapping completed, that's then put into our pavement management portal, and that's then pushed to the ArcGIS Online suite of applications or the desktop version. But in this case, we've supplied the town with the online portal. Next slide. So as I mentioned, the town of Little Compton had us go out and conduct manual inspections. We also offer an automated inspection program, but typically what we like to do when we're first working with a community for the first time is go out and get the manual inspections done first, because this kind of serves as a great baseline for us in terms of should we ever come back to do re-inspections years down the road. We know that we have the initial baseline from a actual inspector's point of view, and that serves as a great way for us to kind of compare legacy data as we go through. So the things that we're looking for are the distresses, and those consist of edge cracking, alligator cracking, longitudinal cracking, transverse, potholes, patching, rutting, depressions, and roughness, or really rideability of the roadway itself. These are the different extents that are collected by the field inspector are then put into the access database, and a road surface rating, or RSR, is then calculated by each segment. And each one of these segments is usually from intersection to intersection. And for the longer segments, we typically try to break those at some sort of defined marker, whether that be a driveway based on the house number, something like that. And each one of these segments is then given a specific rating from the 0 to 100 scale. And the overall roadway itself is then averaged out across the entire length of the road. So next slide. So we have 5 different repair options or repair method bandings that we utilize at Beta. That's no maintenance, routine maintenance, preventative, minor rehab, and major rehab. Each one of these categories has specific repairs or treatments that we kind of over the years have kind of placed into each one of the categories as the different options or what we typically see as these that we see towns or communities utilizing throughout New England. So for routine maintenance, that you're looking at, you know, your fog sealing or crack sealing, preventative, which is really the key to a balanced network, is the microsurfing, chip seal, shim and overlay. Your minor rehab and major rehab are kind of where you're getting into your more costly repairs, but those consist of your mill and overlays, cold in place recycling, your reclamation or reconstructions. Next slide. So these are just kind of example photos for us to be able to kind of show you what we're looking at when we're saying that a road is scoring an RSR of 100. That top photo you're looking at a roadway that realistically looks brand new. We're not seeing any distresses at all across the road itself. Beneath that, you have an RSR of 85. This might be where you might start to see maybe a bit of oxidation starting on the roadway, maybe the beginnings of what might seem like a few cracks here and there. And that's realistically where you would start to maybe implement some form of crack sealing program in order to keep the road in good condition for as long as possible. Next slide. You go from your higher rated roads to now you're getting into more of those preventative maintenance roadways with an RSR of like 73. This is where you're looking to do maybe your micro surfacing, things of that nature. You're starting to see more cracks forming, potentially, the beginnings of what might become potholes, things of that nature. Below that is where you start to go into your more of the poor kind of example of a roadway. You're really starting to see the distresses on the road appear. You have your longitudinal cracking, edge cracking. Looks like there's even some patching and rutting starting to form on the roadway itself. Next slide. And then you have your pores. And these really highlight what can happen to a roadway that doesn't have, preventative maintenance as addressed to it. There's patching, potholes, rutting, and you name it, the rideability, the roughness of the road. You can even kind of pick that up just from the photo itself. So next slide. So we kind of utilize this pavement deterioration curve. This is a good way for us to kind of show the life expectancy of a roadway and how quickly it can really fall off. When you're not able to either apply or treat a road when it's in that good condition band, so anything realistically from that preventative maintenance and routine maintenance. And it shows you how once it kind of falls out of that preventative maintenance band, it really starts to fall off drastically. So this is where we come in to be able to kind of help prioritize and put together a plan that looks to catch those roads while they're in good condition, to keep them in good condition so that you're not spending more money and getting less bang for your buck in terms of how you can stretch that money across the roadway network system as a whole. Next slide. So this is kind of just now specifically for Little Compton itself. So the roadway profile. So after completing the assessment, we've looked at about 20.25 miles of asphalt road. And this also, town's also made up of 0.05 miles of town accepted gravel roadway. You have your privates, 33.53, gravel is 0.77, and then the state with 20 miles for a total of 74.59 miles. Now, as noted on the screen, Beta only inspected the 20.25 as these are the only town accepted asphalt roads that we were budgeted for. Next slide. So Kevin, I don't know if you want to go ahead and chime in here with the overall RSR map.
Well, I just wanted to point out in a little bit what you just mentioned on the last slide. Little Compton's a bit unique from other towns where a lot of your roadways are these essentially your north-south or east-west collector roads. You do not have a lot of subdivision roadways. So when we were going through and evaluating the process, and you'll see it later on in the capital improvement plan, a lot of these roadways are broken up into segments. And you can see from the color categories with the estimated repair measures, one of the ones that kind of jumped out at us and is part of the capital improvement program is Maple Ave, and that's right in the center of the screen. Is my cursor showing up?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, so essentially Maple Ave, right in the center of almost in the center of Little Compton, kind of scout at us as one of the priority roadways, because it also had not only some major rehabilitation, but it was a combination of major and minor, and I'll talk about that following Joe's presentation. But I did want to just point out that Little Compton is a little different than a lot of the communities we work in. where, we can get in and pave a subdivision and you're doing, 5 or 6 roadways within a subdivision. Little Compton is a little different, and you're really looking to, pave longer segments of your your primary collector roadways. So that's something that also is factored into the capital plan and how the town should go about implementing some of the projects. And we'll definitely touch base on that when we talk about the capital plan. Back to you, Joe.
Yep, we'll go next slide. So the initial roadway repair backlog summary, again, this is based solely on that 20.25 miles of roadway that we inspected. This is kind of the foundation of the program itself. This realistically is the table that most communities are interested in. You'll see that we have each repair method or repair banding kind of broken out with the major, the minor, preventative, routine, and no maintenance. We're also showing what we were carrying as the unit cost per square yard, which is what helped us generate those estimated costs that you're seeing at the end of the table. The overall network rating was a 71.89. And as even though Kevin pointed out, like Little Compton's kind of different from what we see for most communities in the sense of the way that the roadways are kind of classified with their functional classification. In terms of an actual RSR, the overall RSR, you're kind of right in where we typically see most communities. So I would say it's not considered a bad RSR by any means. We've seen much worse, and so to be at almost a 72 right off the bat without having implemented any sort of real planning into the repairs, it's not a bad spot to be in by any means. And again, I just want to point out that those estimated costs that you're seeing there, with the kind of little note at the bottom, that's just based on the roadway work. It does not include any of the curb-to-curb improvements like utilities, curb ramps, sidewalks, anything of that nature, drainage. This is purely looking at it from the roadway work itself. So next slide. So this is just another way to kind of categorize and look at the data. So we've just broken it out by the functional class, and as Kevin kind of noted, your minor collectors, that's the majority of the roadways in town. So with that being said, those are roads that you're seeing a lot heavier traffic on, and that's just due to the nature of the way that the town is set up with lacking those subdivisions that we typically see in most communities. And to be honest, the overall RSR for those is quite high. That's the good news. So as I said, that's probably what kept the overall RSR for the total network at such a kind of a good point, at being almost at that 72. It's also broken out into those local and then cul-de-sac dead-end roads. And as Kevin pointed out too, you're looking at only having about half a mile of roadway that falls into that category. So there's it's really a good sign to see that the collector roads are as high as they are for an overall RSR. So next slide. So this goes into the ManageMyRoads platform. So this is something that the town will actually be and has received from beta, but the final step in all of this would be to have an actual training on how to utilize this platform. So what this platform is, we've kind of developed this over the last 2 years in the GIS asset management group. I've been specifically involved in this quite extensively in the development. We're utilizing ArcGIS Online, which is an Esri-based product. This kind of coincides with the ArcMap program that we use to do all of this mapping. And what this is kind of an interactive viewer account that also kind of poses the information that we've collected in the road, not only as a map, but also as different types of, they're called widgets, as you'll see around the actual map itself. This is just kind of a screenshot to give you an idea of what the platform itself looks like. But this is a fully functioning platform. It's to be used to kind of bolster the reporting that we've conducted and help as a planning tool. and we're kind of working towards, making this even more user-friendly and more useful for communities as we go along. But this is what the end result kind of looks like. You're getting this online platform. It's accessible by just having the link and the login credentials, and you can go in and start to look at the data and really kind of dive in and look at it in different formats in order to kind of gain an idea of maybe, best practices and best approach for developing future capital improvement plans. There's also links attached to this platform that bring you to another part of the overall Manage My Roads program, which is where you can look at hosted PDFs of the overall reports that are put together in the Access database on our server at Beta. So next slide. So this is just kind of a balanced approach model for forecasting. So, there was no specific, nothing specifically asked for by the town. This is just something that we kind of provide as a way to kind of show that, with the different funding scenarios, from a big picture, what that might mean for the overall RSR. So we kind of set this to being a target RSR of 75 over the next 5 years, and just kind of showing what different funding scenarios would do to the current RSR of the 71.89 over time. Just very high level, kind of just drives the point home that the more you are able to invest into the actual roadway budget, the better off you're going to be at gaining ground over the years in terms of making that RSR much higher. And then also we're also looking to show you, what's it take to at least maintain what you currently have. And that's kind of represented by scenario 3, that yellow line at the $180,000 scenario. You're still gaining a little bit of ground there, but realistically, this is just to kind of give, the community an idea of, okay, how would it look if we, budgeted this balanced approach, and what would these funding scenarios mean for the overall score for the system. So next slide. So the capital planning and prioritization, that's kind of where we're getting into now. We're looking at presenting the findings to the town, which we've done. Kevin and I have met with a few of you over the last few months, and been in contact, kind of working on this plan, developing it, defining what the needs are, what the town's looking to do, and then developing the actual multi-year plan itself. And that's really the process that we're looking to utilize when we're implementing a pavement management program. Next slide. So part of that is this cost benefit analysis. So the CBV, what it does is it's a guide, and there's reports that exist online through the platform, and these reports are kind of what we use when we're developing a capital improvement plan for a community. It helps us kind of rank the roadways from worst to best, and kind of generates an idea of where we might want to start when we're developing the plan itself. Next slide. And then the system deployment and maintenance. So as I said, what we have left to do with Little Compton is to actually sit down and go through the actual training of the Manage My Roads platform. And then, we're here to act as a support system as well after the fact. Just because we've done this assessment doesn't mean that, we're completely done with the town and that's it. We're looking to be able to work alongside the town until you're ready to either, have another re-inspection done years down the road to kind of get more accurate representation of what the RSR might be, by making updates in the system and kind of keeping this as up to date as we can, so that you're always able to use this as a planning tool year to year. So next slide. So before I let Kevin get into the actual plan and paving core report, again, this was an investment made by the community, and we appreciate that you've given us the opportunity to come in, work with the town, develop this platform for you, and we just want to let you know that we're here to act as a support system for the community, and as that unbiased third party to be able to come in and help make the decisions that are gonna, you know, in the end and end up helping the town create a program that's going to improve the roadways and the life of those roadways for years to come. So with that, I'll kind of pass things over to Kevin.
Thank you, Joe. I will be switching to a different presentation. Does anyone have any questions on what Joe has presented with just the overall pavement management approach? There's a lot of work that goes on. What Joe was just explaining, there's a lot of work that goes into the development, and now we're going to kind of get into some of the more, what you really want to see, which is what are our roads and how much is it going to cost us moving forward?
Yeah, so I had a question on the overall cost. It seemed like it was about $2 million for the very high priority stuff. But if you're getting into that, then I will hold that question and let you explain it.
So really quickly, the overall cost, that I think it was 2.34 million or so. That's just an estimated value to get the community to. That's like we're saying, if you were to spend 2.34 million today, that would get the entire network system to that 100.
Yeah.
So that's realistically what that's representing.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Hold on, I have to go back to share my screen here.
We currently still see your original presentation.
Yeah, how do I? Oh boy.
I think you have to stop screen sharing and then
New
start it
share.
again.
New
Yeah.
share, right? Okay. Okay. All right. So, thank you, Joe.
Yep.
All of Joe's hard work really comes down to these plans that I'm going to be just quickly walking you through. As President Munchin said, we've met with the town administrator, also with the DPW director throughout this process, and as Joe mentioned, we evaluated all the roads. So all of the roads within the town have a certain RSR rating, along with a suggested repair type, and then an estimated cost for each road. Joe, I think that might be you. Can you mute?
Yeah. Sorry about that.
And so what we were doing is looking at past practice within the town. The town typically was spending around $135,000, maybe $150,000 towards road paving program. And as you can see, just when you start to look at some of these road repair recommendations, and what you see before you there is Maple Avenue. That, one section of Maple Avenue from, Simmons Road to William Sisson Road. It's about, 0.34 miles. That alone would cost you in the ballpark of between $160,000 to $180,000. So you can see if you're spending in the neighborhood of $130,000 to $150,000 a year, you'd only be able to do segments of those overall roadways. So one of the discussions that we had early on with the town was possibly bundling 2 or 3 years together to look at, could you then address some of the, a more problematic roadway in town. And knowing that we weren't going to be able to be in a position to implement any road work last year, that 2021 is really going to be carried over into fiscal 22. So you'd be looking at a bigger pot of money or opportunity to address one of your major roadways, which is Maple Avenue. Maple Avenue, I pointed that out earlier on in that figure, right in the center of town, and it jumped out at you as a road that had both major and minor repairs, which could consist of anything from a a mill and overlay to a reclamation or potentially a full reconstruction of the road. We did go through a strategy session with the town. We identified, potential roads, and what you see in this 5-year plan is you're looking at roads that include Maple Avenue, short sections, because we were trying to stay in that $150,000, $180,000 range. You see the 150 scenario at the top of the page. When we started this program last year, we were using a certain dollar value. Currently, some of the prices have started to go up a bit. You're seeing some spikes due to certain, factors that are going on, not only with the pandemic, but with some of the supply issues that are facing the country. So we did get a little bit more recent information, and we've tried to incorporate those latest prices into this scenario that's being presented to you tonight. Again, you're looking at some short sections of roadway, Bluff Head, Rhode Island Road, again, Maple Ave, Brownell Road. You're looking out into 2024, Tompkins Lane, Birchhead Ave. 2025, you're at Grange Ave, Shore Road, and Warren's Point Road. And these were all just, they're coming out of the program. We're evaluating the RSR, the cost, and then looking at how do you fit that in, how do you fit the segments of roadway to maximize your dollar budget of somewhere, estimated between maybe 150 to 180. Some years it might be less, and maybe it's only 135,000. So you can use this plan how best fits your budget from year to year. But as Joe mentioned, you really need to be looking at spending in the neighborhood or investing is a better word, investing around $180,000 a year in order to make progress. You do have a good road service rating of the 71, almost 72, but over time that is going to continue to diminish if you're not investing in rehabbing some of the roads that not only the roads that are going from a minor and then they're starting to increase into a more significant type of repair. So, some of that early preventative maintenance can also extend those roadway life. So again, this is something that it's a dynamic process. We're here to help you through that process. But again, the pavement management program at the end of the day is really the town's, and the town can mix and match and implement projects as they fit into your budget. So, we've presented a scenario tonight where we were looking at Maple Avenue, being able to make an investment and taking care of Maple Ave, in our opinion, would be a very cost benefit for the town, and it would really maximize some of your dollars right there. In support of this, as part of our project, we initiated a pavement coring project to assess the existing roadway thickness. And also we conducted 12 sieve analysis to evaluate the subgrade. And you'll see in this table below here, we did look at, some of the other major roads in town that are either on the verge of needing that additional repair or are in need of a more major repair. I do have to acknowledge that on Maple Ave and William Sisson Road, I mistakenly switched the number of sieves and the meeting the specifications. So those two numbers should be switched, and I do want to explain that a little bit. Knowing that we might be advancing a project for the town, we really took a hard look at Maple Avenue. Maple Avenue has right now about 4 to 6 inches of pavement. We did actually 5 sieves out there, And technically, none of these sieves actually meet the specifications for Rhode Island DOT. With that being said,
Can you-
three of
I'm
the
sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but can you explain what that means? What's a
Sure.
sieve and?
Yep.
what's it-
I'll be happy to explain it, and I can actually show you. What in a little detail what that means.
I don't need much. I just need to know
Yep.
what the heck does it mean. Yeah.
I don't want you to get nervous and think that it's all bad material out there. Let me just quickly get to Maple Ave, and I will show you when I say. It's a great question, and if you will just give me a moment here, I need to get to the Maple Ave sieves. Okay, so M2 is one of the samples that we're taking. Can you see that? I'm sorry.
Yep. I see.
Okay, so there's two sieve analysis that are right on the side of the screen. Those are your DOT specifications, okay? And the material in this column was what was extracted from the roadway and analyzed, okay? And so whenever you see an asterisk, it's saying that it does not meet one of the two DOT specifications.
Okay.
So you can see in this one, 50 to 85% is allowable to pass through the sieve. You had 88% pass through the sieve. In my opinion, that's acceptable. And I would not say that this material is not meeting the specification. If you're at just a couple of percentage points, you're okay. These are older roadways. I don't know if anybody could tell me when the last time when Maple Ave was constructed. I'm gonna guess it's got to be at least 40 or 50 years old. Just going off the top of my head.
Oh, I know. I don't know.
Yeah. So, you had a great question. And I wanted to clarify when you see the results and it says, oh, none of them meet the specifications. I would technically, in my opinion, as an engineer, I would say that material is still acceptable. To your point about being concerned, again, here's another example, 69 versus 70. 48 versus 50, you're essentially a percentage point or two away. Your concern might be this one, which is M4, which I believe was more towards the southern end of Maple Ave, where you only had 29% pass and the allowable is 50. So what this is telling me is most of the material, it's a larger aggregate. So this, and I was explaining this one a little earlier. This one could just be that it was crushed stone or gravel. There could have been a patch in the roadway. It's still good aggregate. Most of the aggregate is around 3/4 of an inch. So in my mind, it's probably like 3/4 inch crushed stone that was used to patch something in the roadway at some point. So again, it's something that we are aware of, and what our approach will be, if I can now jump back, what our approach would be for Maple Avenue is we had a recommendation to reclaim the roadway. This is just the initial planning step. The next step for the town would be actually to engage us through the design process, where we would actually develop a book level construction document that could be advertised for construction for a paving contractor to come in and pave the road. And what we would do is utilize this information, do some additional field investigation, and then make a recommendation. Here under Maple Avenue, we have it as a reclaim. We could make a recommendation to mill and overlay the road, because some of that sub base is good material. You could mill and overlay the road, And then in an area where you had the suspect gravel, which was down at the core location 4 and core location 5, we could evaluate that gravel during construction and have an item in the contract to, if it's bad, you replace it. If it's okay, you're able to grade it out and then pave. And these are like hybrid approaches that come with some experience and judgment during the design process. I'll be honest, to reclaim a road, you can see these numbers here. You're looking at Maple Ave is probably going to be close to $500,000 because you're looking at just about a mile of roadway. If you look at year 1, well, 2021, 2022, and a portion of 2023. That's just to go in and do a full reclamation of the roadway and new pavement. That does not include drainage, which we would also need to look at as part of the project. There's 5 culverts that are out there on Maple Ave that we would also want to look at and make sure that they're in good condition. The last thing you want to do is pave the road and then end up with a problem with one of your cross culverts.
So, Mr. President, what is our decision point on this? Is there one?
Oh, this was intended to brief the council on the approach that's being taken. This is factored already into our highway request for this year and would affect obviously the highway request for years to come. I think what we'll do is learn from this first round and then decide how we want to employ the process in the future. But it seems to me it'll give us the ability to choose more accurately what our next, what our next priority ought to be.
Great.
So I essentially, I've covered what I intended to cover, which was an overview of the 5-year plan. But I want you to know that this is really the town's plan, and it can be modified. I would recommend, based on what we know about the reports and the analysis, that Maple Ave would be a good candidate for the town. If you recall that graphic, it was right in the middle of the town, and that seemed to be one of your problematic roads, one of your north-south roads in the middle of the town, where it's already in a state of distress, and if you delay that one too much, you're going to go into definitely more of the reclamation or reconstruction of it if you defer it for too much longer.
Great. Well, thank you both for the briefing and for bringing us up to date. I think we're off and running with a good project here, and I'm grateful for the prioritization you've put on it as to which thing we ought to do next.
Thanks.
Thank you.
It's our pleasure. We've enjoyed working with you, and we look forward to making these final edits and getting you this final report.
Likewise. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Sure.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Joe.
All right, now I think I can stop sharing.
All right. Very good.
You have the controls.
Received. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you both. The next item of business then is to request to allow a tree planted in honor of Virginia Peckham at the Peckham lot.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Mataronis and Wallach, any discussion? A roll call vote on that. Councilor Golembeski.
Aye.
Mataronis.
Aye.
Aye.
Wallach.
Aye.
That's an aye. Thank you. The next is a petition received to have from 28 residents to have the town shuffleboard put in a proper place for use this spring 2021. I'm pleased to tell you we think we have found the proper place. It is its current location It is going to be subject to the following work. And I don't see any of the petitioners, I don't believe, are on the call or on the Zoom. However, to pass the word, we're going to disassemble, clean, put back together, cover with canvas or cover with a portable cover such that the shuffleboard court should be used at the community center during this early part of the season. What we will do is when we're moving forward with the town parking lot project, which interfaces with the basketball court in the sense that that's where the water and sewer lines that we're going to need to relocate pass. We will take that opportunity to look if there might be a suitable place that's better than what we have. Frankly, we're persuaded that where it is a good place. And we just need to keep the sticks and leaves off of it. We think we have a plan for doing that. But we appreciate the influence brought to bear by a petition. We hear you, and we're anxious to be able to play shuffleboard, if not year round, certainly spring, summer, fall. And so that's our plan.
Bob, I brought the petition. I told Tony to make a petition because he's a neighbor of mine. He's been trying to get this shuffleboard situation going for a while. I went and met with both you and Tony Texera to purchase one. He found it and we purchased it. Mr. Lawrence just turned 90 years old probably 3 weeks ago, and his wife just turned 91 last week. So we can put some kind of, I've been in to see both you quite a few times about this. I've gone over and looked at it. The twigs and stuff from the trees get underneath the shuffleboard. He went up, tried to play it. He tried to sweep out from underneath it. So I'd like to get this, done on a little bit quicker. I don't want him to be 91 before this really gets to come to fruition. So if we can get the maintenance guys onto this, I'll even come up and help and get this canvas going so we can give this gentleman some relief for what he wants. We got an elderly population in town that kind of built this town. I think we should be doing what we can to take care of them and giving them some enjoyment. We get pickleball and paddle courts and everything else. So let's give these people something that they're requesting. Thank you.
Good, thanks. The three of us who put it together in the first place are all volunteering to come back for another round. So we are skilled. We know what we're doing. This time we'll keep the sticks out, and I agree with you. We'll have something ready to go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Moore had his hand up.
Mr. Who did?
Moore, Bill Moore.
Mr. Moore. Yes, sir.
Yes, the maintenance crew and myself will take it upon ourselves to get a cover for that. That is easily workable if the council so chooses to allow us to.
I think the town administrator was looking into something, so why don't you give him a call tomorrow and see if you can come up with some kind of idea. I spoke with him this afternoon. He seems to think he might be able to have something.
Yeah, we talked. We
Okay.
talked. We started the process.
Okay, thank you, Bill.
All right.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
Very good. The next item of business is a notice of intention to post an upcoming vacancy of the position of deputy town clerk as of August 1st, 2021, due to the pending retirement of Sheila Oliveira. Any questions on that?
Motion to approve, and I'd really like to thank, I know she'll be getting kudos come closer to her day of retirement, but she's been a tremendous asset in the town hall.
I'll second the thing. I just want to say it's just been a lot of fun working with Sheila over the years. I like her wit and her candor very much.
Thank you. The motion then is made by Councilor Mataronis and seconded by Councilor Golembeski to place this matter on file, this notification on file, and with their well-expressed kudos for the performance of the deputy clerk. Thanks. We'll take a roll call vote on that. Councilor Golembeski.
Aye.
Mataronis,
Aye.
Brewer,
Aye.
Wallach,
Aye.
Russian, aye. Thanks. Next is discussion of safety concerns raised by the Harbor Commission regarding fishing on the town dock and their request specifically that this be, that the solicitor's advice be sought in order to answer some of the questions. I would prefer not to debate the specifics of it necessarily here unless the solicitor would have some comment or concern that we should be aware of.
I think the letter is pretty self-explanatory what the problems we're having down there. The dock was built back in 1991 for loading and unloading fishing boats. It was never made nor intended to be a dock that you fish from. There's no swimming allowed there, so we curtail swimming from the dock, and I think we really need to do something. It's really getting to be a safety issue for the fishermen coming in at night. So I won't debate it, but I'll be happy to work with the solicitor on trying to come up with some kind of approach to either limit or prohibit fishing from the town dock.
Mr. Chair, I concur with Council Mataronis. I have really three masters in this particular issue. One, of course, the town council. But second, Gary Mataronis has kind of run that end of the town pretty well for a long time. And three, my chief of police is pretty tough. So last year we found out there was a fight on the dock. The victim had one arm, not two. And we got a court order that the assailant cannot ever step foot on Sakana Point again. So we were pretty pleased with that. But I think Council Mataronis is correct that we really have to limit it to people in our town. It's a wonderful asset that we have that was engineered by a lot of great people in our town. And I think Gary's right to keep an eye on it.
So I'd be working with the solicitor to see if we can come up with a solution. I'll report back to the council on anything that we come up with. The only time there's a problem is when squid season is upon us. And I'm looking out my window, I can see lights at the town dock right now. So I'm hoping squid season is going to be shutting down here within the next month, and this will be a moot point at that time. But so basically, this will be a situation for next year. But I'll work with the solicitor to see if we can come up with some kind of language and look what avenues we can take. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would just like to note, I mean, I think because the safety of the fishermen has, been threatened, I think this is definitely worth taking some action on. But I will note that the deed to the property does say that the dock shall be maintained in perpetuity for public, recreational, and coastal access purposes. And it doesn't say anything about town residents only, to Dick's comment on that. So,
Well, that was Judge Houlihan's decision. So that was his decision, not mine.
okay.
And on the other hand, the negotiations of the town dock were ongoing for years and years. So, and it isn't ironic that we say it's a town dock too. In any event, thank you.
Thanks.
I'm not sure I understood that. So what was the judge's decision?
The judge said to the assailant that you will not go back to the Sakana Point dock again after you viciously attacked a one-armed man. And I thought that was appropriate.
Okay, I'm not arguing against that in any way. I'm just saying that you had mentioned keeping this to be a town-only dock, which
I never said that.
yeah, okay.
It was funded by a grant through the state of Rhode Island, but it's known parochially as the town dock.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
But I just don't think the people that pick on people that have one-armed should be beating up people on our local dock. That's all.
Agreed.
This is a seasonal problem. I do work for the marina down there, and I've had to go and replace the power panel because they took a pry bar and broke off the lock and the cover and clipped the live leads on a live things that have no ground fault protection or anything to put their lights on the dock. So besides the destroying of private property, they've also endangered their own lives by hooking up live leads to power panels on salt water, which they don't mix very well. So I think the intent here is to figure out a way to make everybody safe.
Yeah, that would be good.
Okay. Thank you. The next item is a member of the Little Compton Agricultural Conservancy Trust has resigned. Letters of interest will be received through our next meeting, June 10th at 4 p.m. by the office of the town clerk. We have an email receipt already from Don McNaughton expressing interest to be considered. And since the agenda was published, we had a second applicant forward his interest, Ned Levine. So we have 2 candidates already identified. And again, 3 weeks from tonight will be the closing of the opportunity for that seat. We can anticipate that on the 10th of June, we would establish a date for a interview process in order to select the next member. The next item of business is a draft proposal received from the DPW director looking for discussion on amending Town Code Chapter 8, Streets and Sanitation, specifically with respect to transfer station fees and policies. He points out that what he has submitted is not intended to be in final format, but rather for beginning discussion. Sir, if you would comment as to what you would like us to do. Would you like us to react to this in a general way to steer what you might do further, or what's your pleasure?
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, I would like input from the town council on what they feel is a fair way to begin to control some of the construction and debris part of the transfer station, and how we deal with the tire input that we get, and hauling and the fees. And we've had discussions over the last year or so informally, and I just felt it was time that I needed to bring this to the council to see if we could come up with some policy and some fee changes on what's best for the town and what's best for the taxpayers. One of the things about construction debris is it goes against our cap for trash. So we sort of get penalized for that. And then we bring in no recycling with the C&D to offset our percentages of recycling that we're supposed to be doing for Ryrick. And quite frankly, it's too inexpensive right now. So we bring in more C&D because it's less expensive than contractors sometimes getting dumpsters, on the construction sites. So between that and trying to recover our costs for tire intake that we have and the hauling fees, and trying to make, if people want to clean up their yard and get some stuff out of their property, we want to make it so they can do it, and we want to recover the cost. So that's kind of the gist of why I wrote up some fees, and I'm hoping that you'll review the fees and see what's fair and come up with a policy. And whether it's sticker prices, whether it's charging for tires, I really would like to limit the amount of large trailers and trucks that are dumping in the C&D. So after we get to a certain size, I would like to just not allow them to dump in there anymore, and let them get their own private dumpsters from other companies to do the hauling for them. And that's kind of about it. Trying to recover cost and also make it a little more reasonable for the guys down at the transfer station. Does that make sense?
It does. Thanks. It might be helpful to just have a breakout of number of construction debris runs versus number of solid waste compacted loads, just to get a perspective on, because every load dumped is a tonnage issue, and it's also a transport issue. So we could probably assign a value to our current construction debris hauling and see if, I don't know how you measure how we're doing, you know.
It's broken out. They break it out monthly for us.
No, I mean, which kinds of folks are bringing construction debris? You know, you have the average pickup truck backing up with a
Oh, right.
load, and then you have somebody bringing in a huge load and paying a premium for that. But I think your point is it's not enough of a premium. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think most of the coupons are about $150, and many of the contractors have the dump trailers. It's not so much trucks that are dumping; they're the dump trailers, which are great. You know, a great invention.
Yeah.
And they're very handy. It's just our fees are too low, and you know, so it's attractive for them to bring it to us, and then we're taking in too much stuff too, you know, as opposed to, we're supposed to be a transfer station of trash and recycling more than, you know, a complete recycling center. So, you know, we could break it out for costs, for percentages if you'd like. I could do that. And as far as the tires go, of course, that's a separate issue, just in the same document. You know, whether you charge per tire or whether you up your sticker, that will get your discussion going. You know, your dump sticker, that will get the discussion going whichever way you'd like it to go. You know, instead of charging for tires, you could, you know, raise your dump sticker fee to alleviate the cost, but that's a discussion.
That spreads the charge out across every citizen as
Yes,
opposed
it does.
to the person who brings tires, right?
Remember, all the citizens are paying for the C&D too, right?
Yes, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Both those categories.
Exactly.
If I may, sir, the only thing I get apprehensive about, believe it or not, is a tire fee. Not that I'm against a tire fee, but the last time we instituted a tire fee, we started finding tires all over the sides of the road, and the police had to get involved, even though it was a minor fee. So I just want to be careful when we go. I don't want the chief of police to have his guys running around town chasing tire scofflaws. So
I agree 100%. And I mean, the rates I think I put in there are not absorbent, you know, for $3, but
yeah,
you know, depends on your view, I suppose.
So how will we move to the next step where you give us, what do you need from us in order to say, all right, here's my proposal?
Well, you could adopt what I wrote, but besides that, some changes that you would like, and
Well, that's fine. Might we take then a motion for us to each review this and return to our next meeting with any changes that we would propose for the beginning of a discussion?
Second.
That is my motion, and the second is made by Councilor Mataronis. Is there further discussion?
I think Anya actually moved it.
Oh, fantastic. I always hate to move my own proposed motion. Thank you. Councilor is the.
Yeah, I was just going to ask Bill, so do you feel like what you've proposed represents a good allocation of costs?
Yes, I do, but I do also believe there's 5 other opinions before me, and I believe everybody would like to put their 2 cents in and see if they feel it's fair and come up with a compromise, I suppose, because I think over the last year, we've discussed this many, many times, one-on-one, different people, different parts of the town hall. And I think everybody has a little bit different view of it. So even though I think it's fair, I think there might be 5 different opinions, or 7 for that matter.
All right, thanks.
I'd have to read the ordinance the way it's written right now. And then, I mean, it's been known for a while that this guy's doing construction in town, and it's cheaper just to take the stuff to our transfer station than buying a dumpster, so.
Okay, the motion then that's before us, that's made by Councilor Wallach, second by Councilor Mataronis, is that we return in 3 weeks with any proposed changes and bring this matter back. Also encourage the administrator and the public works director, should he suffer any change of heart in any area, feel free to return with any changes he might have. You ready to vote?
I just have a quick question. I'm sorry. Bill, are you proposing, in your proposal here, is section D like a new section in this fee schedule?
Which D?
The tires section. So you're proposing that as a new section in here?
Yes, the tires are completely new because we do not charge for them now.
Okay, and so then the
You
old
do,
section-
Well, you do have the truckload,
Right.
the truckload coupon that we recently ran into that didn't realize was even there. So we do have one coupon, but that's a very rare instance where someone will bring a truckload of tires. Which is great that they're cleaning out, 50 years worth of tires off their property. I think that's a great thing. It just inundates our tire dumpster, for the week, which is no big deal. But if we had a little bit clearer policy and we were able to recover some costs, it gets sticky with rim tires and plain tires. And then when someone brings in a backhoe tire, we get a heavy charge from Ryrick for those. But that being said, it is mostly new, yes.
Okay. A roll call vote on this motion. Counselor Golembeski,
Aye.
Mataronis,
Aye.
Aye.
Wallach,
Aye.
Russian, aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. The next is a memo from the administrator concurring with a request from the fire chief to promote firefighter Jonathan Bednarz from probationary status to firefighter third class due to his satisfactory completion of probationary period. This would be effective retroactively to May 11th.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Mataronis, second by Golembeski to approve. Any discussion? Roll call. Counselor Golembeski,
Aye.
Mataronis,
Aye.
Aye.
Wallach,
Aye.
Russian, aye. Thanks. The next is a request from the Interlocal Risk Management Trust for Health and Dental Pool Member Equity Disbursement Election Form. Basically, each year the trust, through a participant equity distribution process, delivers to each town its share of the portion of retainage that they have that's there to cover unexpected high expenses. In this case, it's a rather significant number of 4 million and 1 million, I think it is. Yeah, a total of $5 million worth of a distribution, of which our share would be approximately pretty close to $20,000. I would propose that we direct that the administrator sign this on behalf of the town and request a deposit into our health or dental. They're both, each is available. Our health and dental premium offset account, the POA.
I'll move that.
Second.
Motion made by Wallach, second by Mataronis to do as that motion described. Is there further discussion? A roll call vote on that issue. Counselor Golembeski,
Aye.
Mataronis,
Aye.
Aye.
Wallach,
Aye.
Russian, aye. Thanks. The next item of business is communications. There's a copy of a letter from the New York Bight Section 106 lead person. This is the wind energy project in what is described as the New York Bight. From my conversation with Councilor Mataronis, this is well outside our area of interest, and I believe we have no, I'll say, dog in this fight. I don't believe any action is required. We are invited to consult should we wish to. I would recommend a motion that we place this on file.
Second.
Motion's made by Mushin, second by Mataronis. Is there further discussion? Counselor Golembeski,
Aye.
Mataronis,
Aye.
Aye.
Wallach,
Aye.
Mushin, aye. The next item of business is a electronic communication from the Cystic Fibrosis Cycle Ride, which is scheduled for September 18th, seeking input on any local restrictions and or approvals that may be necessary this year in order to conduct the cycle ride in September.
I'll make a motion to approve this with all necessary state and local ordinance adhered to, and I guess Chief Raines is right there, so I'm sure he's got some comment on it.
Is there a second on that motion?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Mr. President. just to go back a few months, early April, late March, early April, I received a letter from the Megan Cordero Memorial Foundation. And with that was an application from DOT in regards to parades and events, which I signed off on for a charity ride, bicycle charity ride on September 18th. I later received an email from the cystic fibrosis people in regards to a charity ride on the same day. I brought it to the attention of Ms. Santos Higgins from the cystic fibrosis charity, that they were both on the same day. She had mentioned that in years past, they were on separate days and didn't understand why they were now on the same date. I gave her the information for the Cordero people. She was going to reach out and somewhat coordinate with them. My only concern is that we have two pretty good size cycle rides on the same day. More than likely they're using, I only have a map for one ride, the Cordero ride. More than likely they're using somewhat of the same route through Westport, Little Compton, and Tiverton. So I'm waiting for a return communication from the cystic fibrosis people in regards to, what they were trying to work out between themselves. I had mentioned to them that in years past, we haven't assigned a overtime detail to actually go with them and assist them through the streets. It was just, if we were available, we would man the intersections. Normally these rides are pretty well organized, and the cyclists are pretty experienced, so they know their way around. However, if we have two rides on the same day, I'm probably going to insist on some detail officers, but I can work that out with them.
I didn't realize that the Megan Cordero ride was on the same day, so I think
I was told normally the Cordero ride's on the following day, on a Sunday, and I'm not sure why it's changed this year. But to be honest, I already signed off on the DOT application for the Cordero ride.
I mean, they have it every year. I let them use my lot down at Secana to have a station down there. So I'm not sure what.
Well, this is far enough in the future that perhaps we have the opportunity to await their conversation, do you think, to conflict?
I'll send a email tomorrow to the cystic fibrosis group just to remind them of reaching back out to me.
Yeah, can you take the lead on this, Chief? Because you
absolutely
be very on top of it, and then get back to the council for approval.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Do you want to amend your motion, Gary?
Motion to defer this matter until advised by the police chief.
That would be my motion.
And I'll amend my second to the same.
All right. Any discussion further? A roll call vote. Councilor Golembeski.
Aye.
Mataronis.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Wallach.
Aye.
Motion aye. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks. The next item of business is a copy of a resolution adopted by the Warren Town Council supporting and recognizing the Warren Police Department professional expertise, dedicated response, investigating and protecting their community from hate crimes, condemning hate crimes, hateful acts, and public displays of hate symbols in their community, declaring that hate has no home in Warren. Is there any action or response proposed for this matter?
Motion to place on file.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to place on file. Is there discussion? Councilor Golembeski.
Aye.
Councilor Mataronis.
Aye.
Councilor Moore.
Aye.
Councilor Wallach.
Aye.
Motion aye. And a copy of a citation and citations and a resolution received from the Barrington Town Council in support of legislation to authorize local control of tobacco policies, urging the General Assembly to pass a House and Senate bill relevant to that.
Motion to place on file.
Second.
Any motion made by Golembeski, second by Mataronis. Any further discussion? A roll call vote. Councilor Golembeski.
Aye.
Mataronis.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Wallach.
Aye.
Motion aye. The consent calendar.
Motion to place the consent calendar on file unless anybody wants to pull anything for discussion.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there discussion? Councilor Golembeski.
Aye.
Councilor Mataronis.
Aye.
Councilor Moore.
Aye.
Counselor Wallach,
Aye.
Mushin, aye. The final item of business is the payment of bills.
Motion to pay the bills is written.
I'll second.
Any further discussion on that motion? A roll call vote. Counselor Golembeski,
Aye.
Counselor Mataronis,
Aye.
Counselor Moore,
Aye.
Counselor Wallach,
Aye.
Mushin, aye. Having no further business before the council, I declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you all for your diligence.
Good night, all.
Good night.